Hello friends, welcome to your own school. I am Ankit Awasthi. Friends, these days, news is emerging rapidly from Bangladesh. Almost everywhere in the Indian media is discussing the arrival of US troops in Bangladesh. The arrival of these troops has become big news in India, and Myanmar is also a cause for concern, as Bangladesh shares a border with Myanmar. While India is concerned, news is being generated in India, asking, what will happen now? Should India see this as a concern? Quote, especially since the current situation in Bangladesh is well known, be it Sheikh Hasina's departure, Bangladeshis' arrival in India, or Sheikh Hasina's father, Muhammad Yunus, arriving in Bangladesh. Muhammad Yunus bears the American sway, because Muhammad Yunus was ultimately Biden's favorite. Now, Biden's favorite, and even after Biden's departure, the US military remains here. So, both of them must be worried, my friend. After Trump's arrival, it seemed that Bangladesh's relations with Muhammad Yunus would not be very good. Trump's relations with Muhammad Yunus would not be very good, but despite this, the army is arriving here, so this certainly becomes a topic of discussion in itself. As you all know, Bangladesh and India play a major role in the Indian Ocean. India, in particular, has a large border within the Indian Ocean. Bangladesh also has its feet spread in the Indian Ocean. Quote, in such a situation, this becomes even more important when America's focus is on the Indo-Pacific, and within that Indo-Pacific, America sees Bangladesh as a key to simultaneously controlling India and keeping an eye on Myanmar. This news becomes significant, because this is precisely Biden's dream, that he wants Bangladesh because, when connecting India with the Northeast, India with Bangladesh, and India with Myanmar, meaning, if the connection between mainland India and the Northeast passes through Bangladesh, then we must keep an eye on it. To carry out all this, the US requested a base here, for which Sheikh Hasina claimed to have asked for St. Martin's Island. When I refused, they toppled my government. You all saw that. When Trump came to power, it was thought that he would work to restore Sheikh Hasina. But he returned with a different mission. He played a game called tariffs. Bangladesh was also initially implicated in this game of tariffs. Now, tariffs have recently been lifted in Bangladesh. So, the tariffs have been lifted in Bangladesh. The US military has arrived in Bangladesh. So, has Sheikh Hasina's statement been proven correct? And if that's indeed the case, is it a cause for concern for India? So, there's a major topic we'll discuss today. And if you understand this map very well and want to understand India's map, the entire geography, then I'll just tell you that we have a batch on our Pathsala, in which I've taught complete geography, along with history, politics, and economics. You should go and read it. World geography is covered in great detail there. You can download it from our Pathsala app, the link to which is in the comments section, with a full year's validity. Our books, which we teach in class, are also available. You can order them from home, fully updated. Friends, now let's get to the news. The US recently occupied the Chittagong area, an area in Bangladesh. If I were to show it to you on a map, you could look at it from this angle. This Chittagong area connects Bangladesh with Myanmar. US forces have landed and are stationed in this Chittagong area. Where did these US forces fly in from? They came directly from the US. What do you say? Why are you saying this? Because the US has a presence in many places around the world. Present in many places means that there are approximately 80 countries where the US has established bases, meaning it has stationed its military. Among these, Japan is a very large country in Asia, with the largest concentration of US troops. Thousands of US soldiers are stationed in Japan. So, there's an airbase in the US, and there's another airbase in Japan called Yokota Air Base. A C-130J Super Hercules aircraft of the US Air Force has arrived from Yokota Air Base. It's full of soldiers. I told you about this Super Hercules a few days ago in Pakistan, when I described how US activities are increasing inside Pakistan. Similarly, a C-130J Super Hercules has now arrived in Bangladesh, carrying American soldiers. This will certainly become a topic in itself. Where have they arrived? They have arrived at Shah Amanat International Airport, located in Chittagong. Look, this is the aircraft carrying the soldiers, and this is a C-130J Super Hercules. They arrived in the Chittagong area. Inside the Chittagong area, here's Shah Amanat International Airport. How does this place matter? Think of it this way, just upstream from Chittagong lies Mizoram and Tripura, and Myanmar is next door to Chittagong. India is also on the other side. So, in this area, there's an airport called Shah Amanat. Their C-130J arrived there. Now, when it arrived, the question is, what will these people do? It's not like the army has come to fight. So, if not war, let's practice war. So, they've come to Bangladesh to practice war. The US is currently conducting extensive war exercises with Bangladesh. One war exercise is called Pacific Angle 25, and another is called Tiger Lightning 25. So, this Pacific Angle 25 is currently underway as you and I are talking. So, today we'll understand who they're preparing to fight in this war exercise. Whether it's a war exercise or some other exercise, let's understand that as well. Besides, Tiger Lightning just ended last week, just last month. So, we're going to discuss both of these today. Okay? So, the news here is about Tiger Lightning and Pacific Angle. In this way, America's footprint in Bangladesh is expanding these days. Bangladesh, which was a target of American tariffs just a few days ago, has suddenly become a favorite of the US military. In the last 2 months, American troops have come here twice to conduct war exercises. They're conducting Tiger Lightning and Pacific Angle. So, look, I'm showing you a picture of Pacific Angle 2025, in which the troops arrive in this manner. Now the question arises, sir, how is this Pacific Angle 25 being held in Bangladesh being organized, for which the US military has arrived here? So, where did the US military come from? Tell us a little about that as well. You'll remember, I mentioned earlier that the US has divided the entire world according to its territories. According to the US, we fall under its US Indo-Pacific Command. In a way, the US believes that if there's ever a war with India or any interference with our military within India, the Indo-Pacific Command will intervene. For this purpose, they have established a base in Japan. For example, the US Central Command, CENTCOM, has established a base in Qatar. You might remember the Doha issue we discussed a few days ago. Similarly, troops from the US Indo-Pacific Command have arrived in Bangladesh. So, when you see the news that Operation Pacific Angle is being organized for the 25th, the Indo-Pacific Command, the command responsible for the Pacific Angle, has arrived here. What are they saying? They've said, look, there are a lot of storms in this region. Well, storms will start forming in the Bay of Bengal in a few days. There are a lot of storms in September and October. Quote, right? You'll likely hear a lot of mention of cyclones, as that's a time when a lot of storms form. So, we've come to provide training to deal with that storm. We've come to provide humanitarian assistance. He asked, brother, why are you so concerned about us, sitting across 7 seas? He replied, we're concerned because the Indo-Pacific is very important to us, and we want to do something for that region. If we want to do something, we can't do it without the host country. Why can't we? Because you don't have a base here. Quote. So who became the host? Bangladesh. They said, come on, sir, and conduct war exercises with us. You're coming to save us. Quote. It's a bit difficult for us to digest why you're so interested in us. Obviously, American soldiers come to Bangladesh. We're very concerned to say this. Storms hit your country. We can't do anything. We want to help. Sir, why do you want to help? While explaining this, Sheikh Hasina went on to ask, what do you want from us in return for this help? But for now, American troops have arrived here, saying they will teach you how to deal with disasters. For this purpose, troops from the Indo-Pacific Command have arrived. Pacific Angle 25, which is taking place in Chittagong, began on September 15, and troops were deployed. Bangladesh has 150 troops and the US has 92 troops, who will conduct military exercises here. So, the question arises, how has Muhammad Yunus's relationship with Trump been since he arrived here? When Biden was in power, the change of power here was due to American efforts. For a moment, it seemed that Muhammad Yunus would be devoted to Biden. In reality, Muhammad Yunus was supportive of America. That is, he prioritized American interests. This was his job. He demonstrated this very well. When Trump initially imposed tariffs and then granted a break, he was among the first to thank Trump, saying, "Sir, thank you so much. You gave us a 3-month concession." Then Trump imposed a significant tariff on them. Then he went and made some requests of his own. Overall, their tariffs are currently lower than India's. They still have a 20% tariff. Consequently, Bangladeshi goods reach the US at a lower price than India's, because India is currently under a 50% tariff. Now, however, negotiations are underway with India on that issue as well. So, Muhammad Yunus had cultivated a close relationship with Xi Jinping during the time when all this was happening, when the tariff game was going on. And India also understands that as soon as you get close to China, America will panic. America will panic. America is worried about another thing these days, that Asian countries might drift away from us. That's why a big game recently unfolded. Myanmar, India's neighbor, is ruled by the people. It's ruled by the military. There's no democracy here. It's ruled by the military. America previously had a very different perspective on this military rule. It believed that where there's no democracy, our enemies reside, and we impose sanctions on them. You'll remember Myanmar's relationship with Bangladesh has been particularly strained over the Rohingya issue, because the Buddhists there killed the Rohingya Muslims, who had taken refuge in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. So, Myanmar is a very strategically important place. How? Because it has a large expanse in the Bay of Bengal, and it has access to the Malacca Strait. So, if anyone in the Bay of Bengal, because the Malacca Strait is the point where you enter the South China Sea, can be affected. So, if someone wants to travel from the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea, they'll go through the Malacca Strait. Trade with the Malacca Strait is crucial for China. In the Bay of Bengal, anyone, whether it's the US, China, France, or Britain, who believes they have a naval power, wants to establish their foothold, believing they should have control here. At least, they should be there. No enemy can attack their ships. We should have some kind of presence. To maintain this presence, it's essential to have their bases there. The situation in Myanmar is that democracy doesn't exist, which is why America's interests are at stake. Therefore, they allied with Bangladesh in the name of democracy. They offered Sheikh Hasina, saying, "We'll consider your election fair if you give us St. Martin Island." Sheikh Hasina, who was Donald Liu at the time, told him, "Look, I can't give you this territory because it's a matter of sovereignty. You'll just take an island and settle down forever. We won't be able to get you to vacate, and because of that island, you'll try to control not only Bangladesh but also India and Myanmar." Sheikh Hasina refused, and Sheikh Hasina was turned against her. Now, since Muhammad Yunus came here, America noticed something. Hey, since we accepted Muhammad Yunus, Trump did. So what has Myanmar done to us that we're upset with it? Trump played a trick, and what did he do? He lifted sanctions on their government, which is a military and dictatorial government. Understand the major reason for this removal. Myanmar was getting closer to China these days. Just like China and Russia, there's the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor between Pakistan. China has proposed a China-Myanmar Economic Corridor between Myanmar. So Trump felt that if Myanmar slipped out of their hands, Bangladesh would already be upset in the Bay of Bengal. India refused to provide a base. If Myanmar isn't ready, what should we do now? So, they first told Myanmar that they were a good boy. 2 months ago, the news was that the US lifted its sanctions on Myanmar, saying, "Now you're just like the person in Syria who was labeled a terrorist and had a bounty on him, saying, 'Son, you're a terrorist. The US Army will catch you and kill you.'" Later, when he became president of Syria, he said, "You're a good boy now. Now you run the country well. We lifted all sanctions on you." Similarly, they told the people of Myanmar, if we say the people, it's not the army, it's the people. They told them to govern well, they're with you, and they're lifting sanctions on you. When they lifted the sanctions, concerns were raised at the UN about what Trump was doing. Trump, for his own benefit. Now the question arises, what interest does Trump have in Myanmar? Now, understand that. What's really going on is that Myanmar contains rare earth minerals, and the US has been at odds with China ever since they stopped the export of rare earth magnets. Ever since they went to Ukraine to search for rare earth minerals, the US has been showing interest in areas around the world where rare earth is present. So, the rare earth minerals in Myanmar are identified, and India arrives to look for them. America notices them. China already knew about them. Both of them suddenly show interest in Myanmar. This is why Trump expressed his interest in Myanmar. The first reason was this. The second reason was that if the sanctions on Myanmar are lifted, you become a good boy in their eyes. The second reason was that there's no other major power in the Indian Ocean except India. So, when there's no one in the Indian Ocean, yet there's a lot of trade going through it, because trade from Gulf countries to the Malacca Strait passes through this route, they asked, what should we do if we want to expand our footprint in this region? China has left numerous naval vessels here. Currently, China operates like the world's largest navy, operating with over 300 warships and submarines. They constantly deploy their ships here, so the US wondered how they could abandon such a vast ocean. It was a do-or-die situation, requiring a footprint in the Bay of Bengal. Therefore, the US found Bangladesh the easiest target. Quote, "Come on, Bangladesh, you'll give us your islands," they demanded. "Now, if you don't, we'll start a war with you," they said. And you know the power shift that occurred during that war. So, in reality, it's St. Martin Island, just beneath Bangladesh's Chittagong, that they covet, and this is what Sheikh Hasina kept shouting about repeatedly. China even praised them, saying, "Wow, Bangladesh, at least you protected your interests." But what could they do? A rally was held against them. The government was replaced. Muhammad Yunus's government came to power, and Trump once again emerged dominant. If we consider the export-import trade between the US and Bangladesh, the trade between the two countries is approximately $10 billion. The US sells goods worth $2 billion to Bangladesh and imports $8 billion. So, in a way, the US loses around $1 billion from trading with Bangladesh. Or rather, Bangladesh benefits from trade with the US, and the US tries to impose tariffs on any country that benefits from trade with the US. This is why they initially imposed a 35% tariff on them. But when Muhammad Yunus said, "Sir, our entire textile exports will be affected. Tell us what you want in return," they were then asked for these areas. So they prepared for a trade deal, and finally, a 20% tariff was imposed on them. America has a simple approach. It looks at the other party's interests to see where they are stuck. For example, India's oil interests are at stake with Russia, so let's make a deal. If they don't agree, we'll find other ways to trade with them. They did the same with Bangladesh. They asked, "Tell me, Bangladesh, what do you want?" They replied, "Sir, our clothes will be stuck." They said, "What can you offer in return?" They said, "Sir, conduct war exercises, come and take the land, do this." They said, "Okay." So, overall, America won't come directly asking for land now because the public has become aware. We've also had so much discussion, you and I, so, what is America? Now it wants to sell something. What can it sell? Quote, "It can sell aircraft, oil, and gas." So, in a way, the US is looking at Bangladesh as its market, hoping to at least reduce its trade deficit with them and manage everything with the 20% tariff imposed on them. So, after paying a 20% tariff to Bangladesh, the US is now planning to sell its aircraft to them. This is the latest news. It's been reported in Bangladesh that the US wants Bangladesh to sell its aircraft. What does selling aircraft mean? I told you Bangladesh earns $6 billion from the US. So how can we get that back? The US has done a simple thing. If you're a major military power, they'll sell you fighter jets. If that's not the case, at least buy aircraft. So, the sale of those aircraft is underway here. There are also plans to sell liquefied natural gas to Bangladesh. So, overall, the US is not only promoting a trade partnership with Bangladesh. Rather, they are constantly trying to establish a base in Myanmar, controlling them. So, should we be concerned about this? Obviously, if Bangladesh and the US military do something like this, and if America comes and establishes itself so closely in our neighborhood, it is a matter of concern for India. Why is it a big concern? Because Chittagong is very important for India's transportation in northeast India. We can export to Mizoram from Chittagong port. Therefore, if America establishes a presence here, it could impact India's connectivity with northeast India in the future. That's why Chittagong is very important to us. It's one of the easiest ways to reach northeast India, and after Chicken Neck, it holds immense significance for us. So, the big question is, how much of a concern are these kinds of military exercises for us? So, look, America is conducting such military exercises in the Indo-Pacific these days. Just a few days ago, they did the same thing with Sri Lanka. This is a news item from September 9th, in which India also participated. Australia and Japan had come. They come to conduct such exercises to provide disaster relief training. So, for now, what happened in Sri Lanka is now being repeated here in Bangladesh. We are not worried about this in the name of the Pacific angle. India knows that America needs to expand its footprint. It needs to gain some sympathy among the people, saying, "Look at what a wonderful country America is, how much it cares for the welfare of its people." The problem is with exercises like Exercise Tiger, in which they conducted a 6-day war exercise with the Indian Army at the end of July. So, this way of showing cooperation is to make Bangladesh realize how important it is to us. Just as Pakistan was made to feel by pampering. Now, if we make small Pakistan realize how special it is, then these people become very vocal voices against India. Because when Bangladesh received a little support from China, everyone in Bangladesh started thinking they had become strategists. Separate the Northeast from them. You've heard Muhammad Yunus's statements. Now, America has started coaxing them. Everyone along India's coast receives everyone's love. Look at Pakistan, China's love, America's love. You can see Bangladesh, besides China, it's also starting to receive America's love. Similarly, look at Sri Lanka, the Maldives. So, many are benefiting from being in India's neighborhood, provided India also starts taking advantage of it. How that will happen will be known only in the future. That's all for now. If you like the information, please share it with your friends. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're interested in geography, maps, economics, history, etc., then go to your Pathsala app. Enroll in my courses with a full year's validity. If you'd like to have the content delivered to your home, our books are available. You can order them at home. Thank you so much.